Monday, January 12, meeting of the Orleans Fire Rescue Building Committee. If you're attending via Zoom or online, the connection can be found on the town website in the agenda. So from my left, we have Fire Chief Jeff Deering, DPW Director Rich Waldo, Peter Canine, Rick C., I'm David Little, Select Board Member Mark Matheson, OES Representative Kathy McNamara, Emily Miller, Assistant Town Manager Mark Reel, and our Executive Assistant Laura St. John Dupuy. Is there any public comment? Okay, no public comment. Rick, do you have any updates for us before we get going?
I'm going to make this quick. Good evening. Happy New Year. Actually, tonight, Ted and his group are going to, we've had several meetings over the holidays with the entire working group, very productive, but there's a lot to go through, and our biggest issue is, site location or site massing and making sure that everything works with the program that we have. So Ted and his group are going to present to you where we're at today and some of the options that we've looked at, and we'll talk the pros and cons. And one of the things that we really want to hit on is making sure that you understand kind of the struggles that we're seeing with the site. And we talk a little bit about the reuse of that building as a training facility or a component of it. But we're going to try to cover as much ground as we can. Obviously, there's no decisions that have been made, but it's just a work in progress.
Great.
Okay.
Excellent. So, Ted, would you introduce yourself? And I think the two people with you are new, are they not?
New-ish.
Well, they weren't at our kickoff meeting.
They were not at our kickoff meeting.
Okay.
Russell is an assistant project manager in the office. Has been working on this project for a bit in the background. As you know, Tina works on the project quite a bit. Paula works on the project quite a bit. And then there's another fellow, Axel, who's in our office, who's also working on the. We've got a team. Hannah is with me for a couple of years now. She's an architect in the office. We were actually on Cape for another reason, and so she came along tonight to help with the project, but is a very strong architect and advisor on pretty much everything I do. So that's the team. My name is Ted Galante, for those who do or do not know. And so I'm going to take us through a series of site studies. There are a lot of balls in the air, a lot of questions. There are some things that we're trying to figure out about the site. It is not an easy set of properties. I'll say it that way. There are some complexities. There are things that we're designing a fire station, fire rescue building, and we're trying to make sure that is safe, cost-effective, durable, long-lasting, and we have floor plans to go with the site studies that you're going to see. But the floor plans are really a work in progress in order to get us to look at the site and get the site to work out, because the site is very constrained in one way. It's very tight, left to right, the former dental office, and there's access problems, there's constructability problems, how we construct the building, when we construct the building, different phases of construction. There's keeping the fire department operational in their current building and not having what we're doing impact those public safety features during construction. There's construction access thoughts and different ways. We've been talking about that a little bit. Maybe I said that twice. And of course, not the least of which is topography. There's a lot of complicated topography. The working group has been great. There's been a lot of really good feedback, a lot of strong discussion in many ways. And so I'm going to show you, I think, 5 different site studies that really is what these amount to. And so I'll take you through them, and please ask questions at any time. You getting the lights? Thank you. Oh, I thought that's what you're doing.
I was thinking, I'd just like to be able to see.
I see, okay. So we know that the site plan is, encompasses, the overall site plan encompasses this area, right? The former dental practice is here, the fire rescue facility is here, and the rest of the site is school related. Here it is in the abstract with the 56 Eldridge Parkway, 58 back here. And this access road nudges off the site slightly. And so the building size that we're working with is what was established during the feasibility study. It's roughly 40,000 square feet of building that we need. And so you see that there's a 3-story option. So you're going to see a couple of 3-story, I wouldn't even call them options, 3-story studies and 2-story studies. So this is a 3-story study number 1. This is, set back from the road a fair amount, which is what we need to get fire trucks off of Eldridge Parkway safely so they can come in or out, to turn around, to get back into their building safely. There is so Eldridge Parkway is at elevation 62, and we'll be driving vehicles in and out in this direction. There's this little red square is a possible training tower. In the rear, with sharp eyes, this is elevation 43. So there's fundamentally a 20-foot drop from the front of the building to the rear of the building, and this is due to the existing topography. And so we have a set of arrows here that imply vehicles coming out of the bottom, and we're calling that level 0. The vehicles coming out at this point, level 1. And so we're trying to work with the existing topography. But if you notice over here, this is the existing fire rescue building, considered as a training facility. We're at elevation 53. So the site is really has a lot of topography, and that's not even to mention the topography between here, which again drops down some 15 feet and then back up a portion of that. So it's really a wobbly site. And so in this version, there was a discussion about the possibility of saving part of the existing building and maybe using it for training or using it in some manner in order to get parking. One piece is all the vehicles that are needed really don't fit well on this small parcel. And so we're starting to look at other possible strategies for getting the vehicles that are needed. So we have a front set of bays, frontline vehicles, second line vehicles, and then an outbuilding for some smaller, less used vehicles. Keep part of the existing building, remove a piece, get some parking around the perimeter, and start to work with the grades. This is the concept of a bridge to get us from parking over to here. And so I won't get into the details, but, oops, I'm sorry. Level 0, this is level 0 heading out the back. This is just egress in and out from that level with some storage and mechanical space, and then stair tower up. This is unexcavated because it is, and this is the training tower. This unexcavated is below the apparatus vehicles that are in here that are necessary to get out toward Eldridge Parkway this way. The red zone is all what's known as the hot zone. Yellow is the transition where we have to have a mechanical buffer between the green zone and the red zone. The green zone is living quarters, and to make a fire station healthy for firefighters so that they can have nice, healthy, long lives, we create a green zone, transition zone, and a hot zone. And so living quarters, entrance to the building is here off of this bridge concept, and then living quarters would all be in the green zone. There's some transition spaces in between, and then the red zone. Second floor would all be office, command staff, training, etc., all up on the upper level. And so conceptually, right, parking is here. The building, the property dips down to here, and so we have level 0 down low. Level 1, Eldridge is roughly this elevation at 62, and then the second floor is up here. And then we need to get across that thing. So this is one site study. You understand that the building massing is conceptual because we're working on site studies mostly. This is facing Eldridge. This is facing the parking. That's the bottom level 0. This is level 1. And then the living quarters is up above that with a little bridge in between. So that was one study. And we can go back and revisit these. 3-story number 2. We fundamentally flip the building in the other direction, and we have bays across the front of the building facing Eldridge, training tower in the back, entrance way in the back, and some level 0 vehicles here that can come out and turn and head out this direction. And vehicles can come in and also use a ramp to get up to parking up here because again the topography is so radically different. There is some thought, as I said, about constructability. There's a little bit of concern that we might be too close to this side of the building to get this built, so you'll see another version that narrows this down that makes the building skinnier. There's the thought about construction vehicle access and when construction vehicles can be built, and so there's a consideration. One of the studies is to think about if we do some temporary work on the school entrance and allow a construction vehicle entrance in there, remove this later, build the school entrance back to normal, but we want to make sure that we have safe, cost-effective access for contractors to build this facility, which is going to take, the building footprint is in red, but the construction site is going to be all throughout, well, maybe not there, but all along here. There's quite a bit of construction activity on a site like this, all while maintaining the existing fire station and making sure they can get in and out, right? So it's a phased thing, right? These guys are working in here. We've got to build this building, get site utilities, all sorts of systems in place, move them into that building, and then develop the rest of the site. So this is one thought about construction vehicle access. We're showing a gated fence and such to, it's set back so a truck could pull up here, open the gate, go in, et cetera. This has impact on that entrance, but it can be rebuilt back to where it was. There's 27 parking spaces. We're showing randomly 44 because that's what kind of fits in there. But that's sort of one of the studies. Level 0, same thing, down low. Training towers in the back of the building. There's the training tower, living quarters on the first floor, entrance on the first floor, and then the red zone, the hot zone vehicles can go out onto Eldridge that way, frontline vehicles. Second floor is all living quarters, office space up above. The massing starts to look something like this. On Eldridge, we see apparatus bays, 6 bays, 2 levels. In the rear, we have the building kind of bifurcated a little bit with a retaining wall, entrance here, training next to it, and then a lower level second line vehicles are there. 3-story number 3. Similar concept to what you just saw, training tower in the front, vehicles along facing Eldridge, a set of vehicles here that turn around and head out that way, and then the construction entrance and such, same kind of ramping system. Lower level, very similar. Upper level, very similar. And then the second floor is along the back of the building, not toward the front of the building, right? So the massing would be a little bit different with the second floor along the rear of the building. 2 stories. 2-story number 4. Again, bays facing Eldridge. And we're tight to the property line here, just so that gets stated out loud. That is the building footprint. Possibly vehicles on this side heading out onto the roadway. But what's most significant about this option is that this Eldridge is shown at 62. We're using 62.62 foot 6 as just a number right now. Obviously, once the survey's in place and we have all those things, we'll get that refined. But 60, so the building would be a half a foot higher than Eldridge for proper drainage and such. The rear of the building is raised to 62.6 as well. That may be 58, it may be 64. We have work to do to figure that out. But the idea is to fundamentally flatten the whole site, including the access road, and then be able to drive out on level 1 or drive out on level 1, have living quarters and such, and I'll show you that, and the offices upstairs. There may be a need for a retaining wall. We may have to shift the road a little bit. We're thinking we don't want to move. We don't want to move into the Nauset Fields this way, but we may need to build a retaining wall on that side, and so there's some study to be done there. You'll notice ideas like concrete paver plaza entrance. We're just thinking about concepts about how to create entrance, how to create identity, all that kind of stuff as we do this. Construction road that way, temporary facility, school area, parking in the back, but everything's at the same level, right? The building is no longer bifurcated by a retaining wall in the middle. That starts to look like this. We head out this way onto Eldridge, or this way with the smaller vehicles onto the access road. The entrance is at the rear of the building lobby. All the green zone is back here, living quarters, bunk rooms, all of that stuff is in this area. Second floor is all of the office space back in this area. And I'm not sure if I said it on the previous one, but the training tower's up on that side at the rear of the building. So from the Eldridge Street side, we see apparatus bays here, lower, smaller apparatus bays here, and then the the office space up above with the training tower, and on the parking lot side, it's all also 2 layers with a training tower. 2-story number 5. This version skinnies up the building, as we talked about. There's a little bit more constructability room on this side. There are 5 bays across the front instead of 6. We have plenty of room on the apron to safely get vehicles on and off the Eldridge Parkway. There's a training tower in the back. There are some bays back here that are at the same level, level 1. We're also leveling the whole site in this scenario. We can drive our vehicles out that way or out that way. Construction entrance on that side, parking in the back, outbuilding for other vehicles. So here you see we're stacking engines in this case. So really our front line are these 5 going across, 3 ambulances, ladder engine, and then engine in the back and a couple of spare ambulances. Living quarters off to this side. Second line vehicles back here on these bays, training tower in that corner, and then office space up on this side with a mezzanine over to a training tower. This is an alternate with the same first floor plan, but the offices at the rear of the building as opposed to coming along the side of the building here. Those are some of the things that we're working on with Tim Gula and Chief Daring, thinking those things through, making sure we have the function working out properly, and I think we're in good shape as that unfolds. This is what the building starts to look like with the massing, not the building, but bays across the front, the access road that way, and then bays in the back over here. This is the access roads on that side to that area. This is an overview. So there's a lot that I just threw at you, and this is these are. So this is site and building study number 1, keeping part of the training building, having a 3-story building, working on grading. Site building study number 2, also 3-story. Site building study number 3, 3-story. Site building 4, site and building study 5, 2 stories each. That I'm going to open for discussion at this point.
Quick question. Have you been thinking about sewer with any of these options?
Right now, we're thinking about primarily how we get, no, the answer is flat out no. We're thinking more about the, getting the building and program to fit on the former dental parking and topography.
I'm just thinking, without looking at all the stuff happening in the rear of the building, right? How tight the site is,
Yeah.
all of the different things that you have here. It's, the first thing that comes to my mind is if we can't run new sewer along Eldridge, and we either have to use that easement out the back or do a septic, there's gonna be,
Yeah, there's some land up in the, if you notice, it might be harder to see on these slides, but right now the building is here and the fire department is using land up into back here a little bit. So there is some space back in this area that is not settled. But I think utilities will have an impact once we start to get direction and land on a site plan.
So Ted, with the concepts that more or less create a level site,
Yes.
have you given thought to maintaining and using the existing fire rescue building and access? 'Cause
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there are ways, and I'll just go back to one to talk about it, because I think at the larger scale will help us. The existing building is here. There's a retaining wall over here. And there's something known as sheet piling, and we can extend that retaining wall, put sheet piling back here, and allow the fire department to continue to use this part of the site while we level this site. And that's part of where the construction entrance question came from. How do we work in here? And then once we move the fire department into the new building, it would be phased. That sheet piling, or there's something called SOE that gets buried in the ground, and this site can then be leveled. So there are strategies for phasing it, but there has to be a separate construction entrance, and there has to be a separate public safety entrance, and using part of that. The firefighters would have to park behind the building while this is going on. There's a bunch of different pieces that have to happen because shift change and firefighters, there can be some congestion. So sharing some of that with the construction folks is going to be part of that conversation, yes.
Questions? You want to start with you, Mark?
I have none.
Emily?
Why did the drawing number one?
You lean into the mic a little bit, please.
Sorry, why did the drawing number one not have a construction access road?
I think what I'll say is that, whoops, this one right here. I don't think we had gotten to the construction access discussion when we started working on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was an assumption that we could build this way and work our way off the site, but I don't think that's a viable scenario. And I'll say the working group has been really great at asking questions just like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more, just to clarify, if I understand what David was asking. So in all the scenarios, you're talking about reusing the old building?
No, this is the only one that is considering reusing the old building. The other ones, I'll show you that. The other ones show the old building as a dashed line, which is this,
That's going
and
away.
now this is all parking back here
I see.
and traffic for larger vehicles and what have you. So we're proposing it in one. It's being considered. I wouldn't say it's proposed. It's being considered in one scenario.
Okay, so just a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
Why is that the only one that you considered that in?
Because we felt that the site has many complexities, and I guess by process of eliminating complexities, that's one of the things we're thinking about. And we have other questions about reuse of that building and how that might get programmed and such. So yeah.
Kathy?
Is the 60 parking spots an arbitrary number, or is that seems like a lot of parking?
So I think we initially thought it was a lot of parking, but when we started to look at the building program, For every firefighter that's on duty, you need a second set of spots so that they can do travel during shift change. That's one thing. Visitor parking is another thing. And then there's training rooms on the upper level where you could have a 40-person training session going on. So there, it ultimately turns out to not be that much parking. Yeah.
So leads into my next question is visitor parking. Like, is there on the inside? Was there consideration for like a triage room?
There is a triage
Is there?
room.
I
Yes.
didn't know which color. It was hard to see if it was like.
It would be green. It
Okay.
would be green. It would be.
Oh, there it is right
where,
there.
yeah,
Okay,
there is.
thank
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, it's in different locations and different plans, and Chief Daring and our team are working with making sure we get it close to ambulances and such, and so
Yeah.
that's still in process. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mark?
Ted, if you just go back to where you show, that one's fine, yeah. The access road for construction, and then with the potential of going back to whatever changes are made for that access road for construction, we could go back to the existing roadway and layout for the elementary school when the construction was completed. One of the thoughts I had when looking at this was that we can probably anticipate some construction work needs to be done on the elementary school in the future. You know, we've talked about the roof, we've talked about other things at the elementary school. So, you know, I think this affords us an opportunity to have those discussions later on down the road in terms of the access road going away and going back to what exists there now, or maybe making it a lot easier to do work on the elementary school in the future. So I think just to keep it in the back of our minds that, you know, a couple of years down the road, this may be beneficial to all involved. And I was one of the people that brought up the potential reuse of the old, the existing station. Whether that is economically viable or not, I know a lot of times when you try and retrofit a building, it's cheaper to start with something new. And I don't know if again, we're here to talk about getting the fire station to be as good as it can possibly be for the town of Orleans. I don't know if other entities in town might want to talk about potential use of that existing building once the fire department moves out of it or not. But again, a discussion for later on down the line, I think. But in any case, I was glad to see that the architects have looked at both those things as viable options. Keep it, remove it, construction road, keep it, remove it, and they're willing to talk to the town about those things and the other parties involved about those things. So I think we got a good first step going here, anyway.
Mr. Chairman, can I add something to that? That roadway reconstruction was a topic of discussion today in our working group session. And we're kind of envisioning that as a permanent improvement, maybe not in this configuration, but a permanent improvement for the back property. So when you do your expansion, you're not rebuilding then. This was a first cut at it, but we're kind of looking at something that may be a little bit more defined, better access for the department, but also better access for the town and the schools.
And I think that, you know, there was a lot of, I think, relief and excitement even on the part of people in town when we were able to come up with a deal to get this dentist property so we could build here and stuff, and we could essentially leave the elementary school alone, as little impact on the elementary school as possible. And so I just want to make sure that if we are talking about, it certainly would appear that we need to have some access for construction, that the conversation takes place with the people in the schools as
Absolutely.
whether it's going to be permanent or temporary. And again, as you said, and I had that thought myself too, is that this might be beneficial for the school and the needs that they have if we reconfigure that opening, that driveway there. But that's a discussion with them, and we can go from there, whether it's permanent or just temporary for construction.
Understood?
So it appears that you have the parking area, which could be used for septic. You have the area just south of the tennis courts, which could be used for septic. And if we do have the ability to hook up to sewer, we're going to be going in that direction anyway. So it seems as though the plumbing and the infrastructure, from my perspective, kind of works.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right.
You have anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Peter?
I'm happy with what I'm seeing here. I think we should, I think trying to keep the existing station is, I don't see that as being practical here. I mean, it's in the middle of a really intense site here. I mean, we're trying to do an awful lot here, and I think trying to keep the existing station, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me at this point. I mean, we don't have the septic thing resolved. And I think at some point, we're gonna be, yeah. I'm happy with most of what's,
And you've incorporated the training that the chief wants to be able to training area with this design and not in the old fire station, correct?
That's correct. In order to put training in the old fire station, we would have to retrofit the old fire station, and that's not been considered as part of the
Okay.
process yet.
Rich?
I don't have much comments right now, other than to say thank you for the tremendous amount of work. To come up with 5 different alternatives very quickly is extremely difficult to do. Given the complexity of the site that you're working with, the challenges that you have, I think one of the things that's worth noting is that each one of these plans do require a special zoning relief.
Yes.
In order to make any of these work.
That's
I
right.
think that's just something that needs to be noted, needs to be mentioned. I think I'd like to see maybe a closer parking access, and I think those are smaller detail things that we could work with behind the building, just for someone that's showing up at the fire station for emergency reasons, that has closer access, particularly if they can't get out of the vehicle or something like that. Either they could be seen from a watchroom, or they just have quicker access. So maybe that might be a future thing. If we abandon the construction road after the fact, we can create a parking spot closer to the entrance. Picking up a little bit on Peter's thought, I'm not really that keen unless it's absolutely imperative to keep the old fire station. I think it would probably drive the cost of this project quite high. You know, not only trying to work around it, but then to try to retrofit it after the fact. So I'd be inclined to scrap design alternative number 1 and basically not work with that, but that's really a chief's call, whether that's necessary or not. Other than that, I mean, it's 5 proposals, a lot to digest. We're probably gonna have to work through this a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, I'll go back to the summary slide just to kind of wrap that piece up. But there are 5 proposals. They're all relatively similar. The 2-story stations seem to work well if we infill the site, and it gives us some opportunities there with site utilities and such. There is a lot of grading and soil that we'd have to bring in, and one of the we're starting to consider budgets as we work this through. We haven't gotten to a final budget yet. We're considering that. There at the moment are too many variables, whether we keep the existing building, whether we have a split level site and facility, or whether we have a level site. And so we're starting to think that through a little bit. Either way, there will be a fair amount of earthwork and topography involved in this, retaining walls and things like that. And so from our perspective, May is very soon, and March is even sooner, warrant articling. And so any help that we can get with enhancing the schedule to help us focus our efforts because, thank you, it was a lot of work and our team really pulled hard for the last, over the holidays and this last week, up until today at 2:30 when I got the final slides. And so, any help that we can get with narrowing, the options and helping it move forward, we want to get numbers that are useful and be able to get to town meeting in the healthiest way. So I think that's the just sort of an overall just comment, but.
Rick,
I agree.
I'm still waiting to hear from.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to
Jeff.
go with
I
this,
think-
was that I really applaud the design team because we're looking at three-story options, we're splitting up services between floors, and we threw it out at them and said, look, if we gave you a level site, what would you come up with? And that's that option 5, or option 4 and 5. No retaining walls in the back, no multiple levels of parking, but most importantly, all of the operations, the equipment is all on the same floor. So if you could go to that floor plan maybe, Ted, and I think the chief, one of the issues that we experienced with the existing station is that things are all over the place, multiple levels, and becomes one of the things that you always have to think about is response time. And what is the best way to get out of the facility the quickest? And if you look at this layout, everything is delegated, not hopscotched around. Not that the design was hopscotching, but because of the multi-levels we were hopscotching, everything is delegated to its particular areas, especially the apparatus, in all one contiguous location. But Chief, I think your opinion of this would be greatly received.
Yeah, I think, if I may.
Please do.
I think, first and foremost, over the last couple of weeks, the amount of work that the design team has put into bringing these options forward is nothing short of pretty monumental. The number of iterations and conversations that we've had looking at these things over the last couple of weeks have been nothing short of heavy to get to this point. But to Rick's point, from day one, I've said that this station should be built around response time, and that's not only response time leaving the station and responding to whoever in the community needs help, but also the internal response time that it takes wherever a firefighter is in the station. How fast can they get from wherever they are into their gear and onto a fire truck or ambulance and respond to your emergency? And the current facility, we can't meet national standards. The idea of this station, paramount, would be how can we get to those national standards. And the flat version that we see today, it does help us accomplish that. The internal layout, I think, has got some work to do, but the concept is there. And then, number one was response time, but number two is health and safety of the public, but also health and safety of the staff. And that is one thing I think that the Galante group really excels at, is that interaction of hot, warm, cold, green, yellow, red. How do we make those spaces work together? And ultimately, that does translate into the safety of our staff. And that's something I've seen in every one of the concepts is those things, and I really do appreciate that. I think we've got to work on what the interaction with the public is, how they enter the building, if they have an emergency, those things. That's clearly something we need to continue to work on here. And when the public's coming in, are they hopefully not interacting with emergency vehicles? And all the concepts you see, those bays the primary bays are up on Eldridge Parkway, which is something that is really, really important, that when you drive down Eldridge Parkway, you see the public safety facility as part of this community, but also you're not pulling in and a fire truck is pulling in the same space that you are, which we currently have. I just want to give one quick example of some of the iterations of this, but we've had conversations about the training tower location as one concept or one conversation of how does that affect our staff? How are they able to use that at different points? But also, is it interfere on the front of the building? Does that create noise or a problem for our neighbors? But also, on the back of the building, is it near the public entrance? Is it closer to the school? Is it farther away from the school? Those are all things that are being considered in this process. And we've got a lot more work to do on this, but we're getting there. And it's like, this, if we could get to this point where all the apparatus is on the same floor, that would be pretty exciting. But as in those other, like the 3-story options, if you will, we've sort of tried to prioritize the stuff that needs to be used the most. But when a firefighter has to use that other stuff, how do they get there? And that creates response time challenges. So we're trying to work with the site and the different concepts here, but we're getting there. We're getting there, definitely.
Sure, Rick?
Could I add something to that? Because this is exactly how our working sessions work. Everybody's providing unbelievable feedback. One of the things that has gone through this process was when we were looking at all of the options, how can we get the public entrance to the front of the building off of Eldridge? And the site just did not allow that. So, you know, a lot of people will look at it and say, why do I have to drive around the back of the building to get in the building? But, you know, we've looked at some concepts as to whether or not we can get some, you know, flip things around and put the public entrance in the front, but it just seems naturally, that's where you have the most space. That's when people are coming to training sessions or meetings using the meeting room, your most parking spaces. So, you know, everything flipped to the back. We want to keep the apparatus up front, but, you know, from a public entrance perspective, it naturally, you know, feeds from the back because that's where you have the most space.
There's a big factor with this public access thing in that in July, 3/4 of the people that are here are strangers. You know, they're going to go for that visual mass, and they're going to, you know, if you've got a problem, you're not really worried about parking. You're going to leave your car wherever it is to get into where, you know, that first aid situation. So I think whether, and it looks like that's going to be a problem. Our frontage on Eldridge Parkway is too important for equipment access. I think we need to kind of zero in on signage or whatever that is, but yeah.
It's a great point. It's been a lot of discussion around that. You know, right now, if you look at the plan, we have the vehicles, the emergency vehicles coming out of this area right here. There is a house watch room right here. There was discussion about adding a secondary parking here for that kind of emergency visit, but the floor plan simply doesn't allow it. The floor plan turns into, really, that's the living quarters. All of this space, all of this portion of the building is really private house. It's where these good folks live and you know, in their daily life. To get a public entrance here and have a public entrance here would really make the building even more complicated. And so yes, signage and or information here that can get people back to this entrance and then to the triage room. You know, on the off chance that somebody does park here and block something, the fire department will have to deal with that. That's going to be an operating procedure they're going to have to work around. But I think it'll be a rare condition, given the, you know, limits of the site, east to west. We sort of are
I think
forced
if
into that.
it's, you know, high on the list here, then I think we can work this around the
Yep.
back. I mean, there's obviously things we can do to obviously enhance that,
Yep.
but I think that would be the way to go.
I think that's one piece that talks to a two-level building as well, because I think it'll be easier to have a two-level building with easier flat access, so that driving around the back when someone's having some problem and looking at two different heights, a door down low, a door up high, it's going to add some confusion. I feel that the department has suffered enough given where they are. So.
Agreed. I from a site engineering perspective, I think a two-level building makes all the sense in the world. So we've obviously heard from Rick, from your team, from the chief. Are you looking for direction from us to, this evening, to focus in that direction, given the timeframe that we're up against?
Well, I'm
throwing it out there.
I'm looking at Rick because he's the schedule guy, but I think the answer is yes. If we
Yeah,
can get
I
direction.
think there's two items that I think we would like to move off of. One is the reuse of the existing building. I think that's, you know, if we can get our focus away from that, that would be great. The other is going to a two-story building flat site. I think how the building lays out there is still to be discussed, but if it gives the architect and their team a lot more freedom to start getting a little bit more creative with it, knowing that we're not dealing with 5 different versions, just one.
Sure.
So I want to get there as well. I think one of the things that would probably want to know or understand is, one, when's the expectation for the survey to come back? So we can understand what a 20-foot fill versus the other cuts. What does that impact? Who does that impact? How does it impact our neighbors? You know, I mean, for me, I think a 2-story level site makes the most sense. But I would just like to see, what are the other impacts that we have to those abutting properties? You know, where's that fill going to go? How much fill do we need to bring from out of town? Is there enough on-site? So when do we think that we'd be able to answer some of those questions?
Well, I think we have some of the answers already. The dentist's office is relatively level with where you're proposing
Oh, no.
the elevation for driving in now. So where it's going to be impacted is in the rear, where we have the current fire station, where the sheet pile would go, and where we have the current access that faces the elementary school. So I'm not so sure that that we have impacts on the one neighbor, so to speak, so much as, with the exception of the proximity of the building, which is obviously going to require zoning relief.
Yeah, and I hope that's the case. I think at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. But if you look at the dentist's office, I mean, it's a small little postage stamp on that lot, and that whole backside and that northeast corner is pretty low in comparison.
We're
to
looking
the
at a
rest.
ton of fill.
So, just to get a good understanding of what that fill potential is, you know, what adverse impacts could it be?
That's really a big concern of ours, I agree. And the survey team is scheduled to be out there this week.
We're out there,
We'll be pushing for them to give us preliminary information as soon as they get back to the office, so.
Yeah, I think you answered the other question of mine, which is, how do we perform that fill with the existing operations in place? How does that get done? And, you know, obviously, that's subsequent phases when we talk about the constructability of the design, but, you know, sheet piling, doing section by section, you know, okay, I guess that is an approach that could be done.
It's
Probably
one
not the
approach.
most
There may be
ideal,
some
but-
others we need to think through, but that was that question came up in the working group, and that's what we started to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not wedded to keeping the existing building. I understand what you're saying and the implications of that. But I'm also really cognizant of the fact that that's going to be our operating fire station for the whole time of construction. And so when we start talking about septic system, sewer, whatever it might be for the new station, that existing building is going to be a workaround no matter what. You know, we can't just go put a new septic field in where the existing building is, because it's there, and it's going to be there while everybody's living in it, working in it. So, knowing that that's a reality, and I understand, you know, talking about having the level site in the 2-story building and the benefits of that, and then how do we deal with all that with the existing building there being used every day? I would feel more comfortable knowing that in spite of all the difficulties of working around that it's a better deal for the fire station, for the town, to go with a level site 2-story as opposed to the first 3 proposals, it was a 3-story building, and not have to deal with that change in grade with fill and whatnot. I mean, we are talking about the back of the building is where the non-emergency vehicles are going to be stored and coming and going from the back there. the importance is having the front open to Eldridge Parkway for the high volume traffic of the ambulances and the fire trucks. So, you know, I think we need to have something a little more clear or definitive in terms of the pluses and the minuses of the 3 versus the 2. The fill that's going to be required there to make this a level lot, and just the impacts of the day-to-day operation of the present station now, all through this whole construction, and whether it's, the trade-offs are worth it one way or the other.
Well, I'm glad it's our select board representative that's bringing that to the table, because that may impact the timeframe.
Understood.
And I think, and those are all things that we need to be cognizant of. We're getting pushed by the administrator's office to, but I tend to agree.
Oh, no, we got that from the select board.
I tend to agree with Mark that maybe we need a little bit more information before we give you that final direction.
One other piece of information that I think is vital too is, obviously, when the surveyor comes, we're gonna get an understanding of how much fill that's gonna be brought in, what the cost implications are gonna be for leveling the site. I also go back to the existing fire station. I remember when I first looked at the estimate on what it was gonna cost, they had the demo of the existing fire station at like $25,000, which is absurd. So, I mean, alone, never mind retrofitting it and using it for something, we need to get an understanding of what it's gonna cost to demo this because of when it was built and the type of contaminants that are most likely in that sort of construction. So that's a whole nother cost. And it's tough to make decisions if we want to abandon the idea of leaving the fire station and have a leveled site when we don't know what the costs are going to be.
But what's our alternative, Rick?
One,
A 3-story building with a
well, I mean, we would have to look at other options besides that. I mean, if you're going to inflate these
Given the
costs.
size of the site, I don't think we have a lot of other options.
I would agree
I
with
think,
that.
I think we're shoehorning it in.
I think we got too much stuffed in here already, but, I mean, it seems, you know,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. We need to get realistic numbers
Yeah.
for what the demolition's gonna cost. But I also agree that with what's been said, that it doesn't make sense to keep
don't
it.
let a demolition number, you know, take your design in the wrong direction.
So-
I was very young in 1960 when the existing building was built. But I have a feeling that part of the reason that it's multiple level is that they were wrestling with financial issues at the same time and grading issues. And I don't want the next generation to have the next 5 fire chiefs from now, 10 fire chiefs from now saying, I wish they would have built it on 2 levels instead of 3. So I worry about a multi-level building. But we can, I think, and I understand your concern. I empathize because making decisions without finances is very tricky. In order to get to finance, the survey is one piece, and that's an important piece. Surveyor is not going to tell us how much fill we need. That's a separate study and a separate bit of work. So we get some information from the surveyor next week. We're probably mid-February before we figure out how much cut and fill we're talking about, because we have to get it analyzed, we have a civil engineer involved, et cetera, et cetera. That gets us some, we understand then the volume, and then we have a couple of weeks of cost estimating. We're into March. So, and that's to help make a decision as to one way or another that we go. So I'm just trying to point out all the pieces. I empathize with we can throw a rough order of magnitude at some of these things, but to get them for numbers that you can bring to town meeting is going to be, without having a clear analysis done, is going to take, that's a bit tricky.
I think it's more, not so much numbers for a town meeting, but more of numbers to make a decision about, right? So if a rough order of magnitude and saying, hey, if we level the site, it's going to cost an additional $5 million. If we get rid of the building, the existing fire station, it's going to be $10 million. And then you have a better understanding, it's X percentage of the total cost.
But look, if you're looking at it from the perspective of a two-story building to a three-story building, I'm sure some of that comes out in the wash of having to create a level site.
Well, the most expensive house to build is a ranch. That's because every square foot has concrete. So if you go and you make a single-story building, you're gonna have a bigger footprint.
I think
So it's
we're
gonna be a
beyond-
more expensive building.
I firmly believe that what we've heard here this evening is to go with a level site in a two-story building. If we want to, if you want to make a recommendation or a motion that we follow to explore the three-story versus two-story option more, that's fine, but then we just have to be cognizant of the fact, we're not going to be ready for a Maytown meeting, which I've said all along is ridiculous. I'll go on the record. So, you know.
It's just in my inherent
I
nature to be
defer-
mindful of costs.
I'm gonna-
This is what I
I'm
do.
gonna- I've spoken too much already. I'm going to ask to hear from someone else on the committee.
I'd like to think about narrowing it down to two options. And the first option would be the two-story building. And then the second option would be a hybrid of that didn't require the adjustment of grades. So the public entrance is at the lowest level. We'd still maybe take advantage of some back-of-the-house items down below. We wouldn't be able to have exit out the back, you know, all on one floor, but look at the options, so then we can put together the pros and cons. What that'll save us, the second option would save the infill primarily, and maybe a few design changes in it, but it would impact operations, because they won't have one level of going out, but that may help you make a decision as to what direction to go.
And just to be clear, the three-story option will still require a significant amount of earthwork.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
no
everybody-
doubt.
I think everybody gets that, but I
No
just want to
doubt.
make that clear.
Yeah.
The site is not like this. The site is like that for a short distance, but then it goes back up like
Yeah,
that, right? So
yeah.
there's and of course it rolls in different directions. So just to be clear about that,
Can I ask you a question?
of course.
Did you, for the square footage, is the building for, the fire station, for example one, did you make that smaller if you were going to keep the old building for training? Or is that in addition, is that square footage in addition to? So we were using
This
the number
current-
40,000. Is that an additional, whatever, it's 12, was it 12,000 currently?
It's additional. We do take down part of it, but it's additional.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. So that could have a bearing on cost too.
yeah.
So.
Any other questions? I'd like a motion from someone with the direction for Rick and Ted to, on how to proceed at this point.
I would move that we ask that they proceed with what Rick had just talked about in terms of looking at the potential hybrid of a three-story and the two-story, so that we can pursue those two, or look at those two things and then make a choice from that.
And is that considering that we will have some engineering numbers for fill and things like that, and retaining walls, or is that's probably too early for that, isn't it?
We'd have to put together in order for you to make an educated decision, we would have to let you know what the order of magnitude costs are for those. See if we can simplify it a little bit. We have a lot of connections with Cape site contractors, so we can throw some, get some ballpark numbers out there as to what it's going to cost. And it's not just filling the site, because it has to come up in a controlled backfill situation. It's a decent amount of material coming in here, but it makes for a much smoother operations down the road.
So yeah, I think we can do what Rick is proposing, two 2 studies. And then as we get site information, work the volumes and start to work building costs and think about constructability. I think that can be part of our next.
Rich?
So I would go as far as to building on Mark's comments and say that I'd like to evaluate options number 2 and number 5. And the reason why I chose those 2 is, one, I would like the entrance at the back of the site to be closest to the parking area. So both options 4, well, options 4 doesn't provide that. Option 1 certainly doesn't. I also would like to see, in option 2, I'd like to see that tower in the back, not in the front off of Eldridge, which is the difference between options 2 and 3. So option 2 is a 3-story building. Option 5 is a 2-story. I think giving them direction to, evaluate those for the pros and the cons, and maybe put some cost differential between the 2 options, maybe, and come back with us about, what's the difference between those 2, and what are the different impacts that each of those alternatives bring.
I'll incorporate that in my motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion from Rick, Ted? Questions regarding what the motion stated?
Yeah, just one, we're in discussion. We're going to suspend the planned use of the existing facility, correct? And
2 and 5 exclude that, so.
it sounds like everybody's comfortable with us, of course, we'll be working with the schools, but, and the town, but comfortable with us at least using the school side entrance for during construction, if not for something permanently down the road. We'd like to continue exploring that and see what we can come up with to be creative.
I think we need to have that discussion
If
with
we
the
could
school people.
amend the motion to include the fact that we're no longer considering reuse of the existing fire station building. You got all that, Laura? Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Want a second on that amendment? Second.
We have a second on the amendment. Thank you, Mark. Okay, all those in favor, and let's do a roll call vote, starting with the chief, please.
Hi, Jeff Deering.
Aye, Rich Waldo.
Aye, Peter Canadian.
I, Rich Chiampaglia.
Aye, David Little.
Hi, Mark Matheson.
Aye, Kathy McNamara.
Hi, Emily Miller.
I'm Mark Reel.
Okay, so it passes unanimously, and I'll say Godspeed, but I don't think we're going to get the speed that we were looking forward to for our meeting a few weeks ago, but I wish you all the luck in the world.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for the vote. It helps us, it helps direct the team, so I'm grateful. Thank you.
David, just so you know, when we meet as a select board on Wednesday, I will be reporting to the board the discussion that we've had here tonight. Board members may be watching now or, may look at it. So I think that I can't speak for the whole board, but I know we did have some discussions about the tightness of this time frame and the potential for making it to town meeting in May with something substantive, or perhaps not making it. But the option is always there to have a special town
Special.
meeting for something as important as this. We did it a couple of years ago for the high school, the financing, one item only. I think it was in January, not that we would go that long, but I think everyone's certainly mindful of the timeframes and the tightness of everything, and the importance of this project and keeping it moving forward. So whatever needs to get done will get done, I think.
Great. Well, I know the chief is going to be there on Wednesday, and I was planning on joining as well.
We'll be there.
It's not public comment, but you're always welcome to speak, Gail. Please come up to the microphone.
I construction road. I can't tell whether that's going to impact our entrance and our parking, but I would hope that you would be able to bring back more information on that.
So Gail, thank you for asking the question. What I've shown here as a first pass for this discussion is an access road that comes in where the school road is currently. Right now, this road, in theory, goes through your parking area that's off of the road. And so you have 27 parking spaces there now. And so I said to my team, put a parking lot over here that's 27 plus. And so they're randomly showing 44. We don't have a basis for that number. I just wanted it to be more than you currently have. And so that would yes, it would impact your entrance and your parking, but we're trying to make it better so that the school is not negatively impacted. So that was the intent. And then there's a little gate here. The idea was to have a construction gate or an access gate that can be secured so that a school bus doesn't drive in and go this way, or a parent or someone. That was the direction for the. So again, it's a first pass. It's something that the school department, school committee hasn't seen yet. Wanted to make sure you had some feedback. I know how important all of this is to you guys, and so that's the thinking about it. And it's hard to see maybe, but from this line up here down that way, we said proposed, simply thinking, and from that line that way is existing, and the school building is up there. And the thinking is that we would just get through the entrance, get some parking, and that way, a road that was modified before your existing road. So it was a way of keeping construction traffic and school traffic separate.
So where the parking is now, where the parking is being recommended, that there's nothing there?
Right now, there's just some trees. Not just some trees. There's some trees. And so we started to think about, what do we plant? Do we put trees? Do we not put trees? Are we taking down trees? Is it permanent? We didn't want to show scattershot parking. We thought about moving the parking to this side, just off of the road the way it is now. We were, again, if we're designing something, we wanted to make sure it was functional and safe and efficient.
And so you're saying that line, between the dark gray and the light gray, the light gray is where the school starts?
Up here, yeah. Yes, up here, yes.
So visually, I understand what you're saying, but if there's any way that there could be a little more clarity on what that looks like in terms of the school.
For us too. We're still working on it. But yes, thank you.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Gail, just so you know, I think we were looking at, when this was proposed, to have the access road there and the need for that we agreed that sitting down with the school staff and people to help design this whole thing was paramount. It's not going to be something that just gets done. It's done in conjunction with you and your recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Rick, will this be shared with the surveyor so they know the extent of the surveying that needs to be done, which will include that area and that area?
Presently, the surveyor's just covering the dentist property and the upper lot. We gave them a limit of work. We can increase that, but that's the topography. We will have to survey it eventually, but the topography at that entrance is not that complicated, so I don't
Yeah, I
think
agree
it'll
with
make that much of a
I agree.
difference in our
I agree.
design.
It's really, what we need is this area,
Yeah.
really. But this can happen at some point in future. The concepts can be developed without that, but at some point we would need to, yeah.
Okay.
Rick, are they going to be doing soil borings at the same time? Do we know?
Not the
No soil samples.
surveying team. We will schedule, we're not going to do geotech borings until we know exactly where we're going to put the building.
Okay.
We could do some test pits, if we could coordinate that with you, with your equipment, that may be beneficial, but I think, right now, we're gaining the elevation grades, and once we have a better idea as to where our septic system's gonna go, where our building's gonna go, we'll wanna do geotech and test pits.
Okay. Well, let's keep it open for the septic system, it's a septic system or sewer connection, so we'll keep that. I mean, obviously, us to be able to evaluate a sewer connection is helpful to know what that bottom floor elevation's gonna be. So whether it's gonna be a 3-story or a 2-story.
Is it better, higher for you? I imagine.
Of course it is. I mean,
It certainly helps grab.
No, I asked that, I asked that as a question, but,
For sure, but there's a lot of other pieces to
Okay.
the sewer connection that needs to be analyzed and evaluated. I think the other thing with the surveyor is just, just because you're going to be changing that front entrance and you're going to be siting the building right on the front entrance, site distance is going to be important, particularly on that right side there, is to be able to make sure that these guys are going to be able to see. So when they do the survey, that they're cognizant to get any potential obstructions that might be outside of the site that might be useful in determining site distance and stuff like that.
anything else?
I think what we'll probably do there is, when we talk about sightlines, I'm not gonna have the surveyor go out and identify trees and stuff. We'll use photographs from the standing point where you enter the road with the vehicles. That seems to be pretty valuable to see exactly what our obstructions might be.
You've got a tough group you're working with up here.
I like that.
I think we're in good shape, unless you two have anything else to add.
I think I'm good. Yeah.
Well, what you've done to date is remarkable.
Well, thank you. It's an important project. We really want to get this right. We were really interested in this project for a long time. That's one, we studied the building quite a while ago, and I think we're in a really great spot. Getting this dental office property was really a great move for the town. It's a very wise decision, and I think it's going to work long-term benefit for the town very well. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Can I ask one last question? Because it's further down our agenda, upcoming meeting dates. When do you think you'll be able to have a good comparative evaluation of the two sites, of the two alternatives?
I wanted to talk offline with Ted and his team after the meeting, but, I don't know when we'll have all of the information from the surveyor. But, we may be able to use some GIS information just to give us some basic figures for the calculations. We can work with the estimators, and I'll contact a couple of site contractors. Is 2 weeks too aggressive?
Yes. I would say we need 4 at least. Our team has just literally worked day and night for a long time. And so I personally have a vacation next week, the 17th to the 24th. I'm out.
So February the 16th,
That's probably a good time.
and that's tentative. We don't have to,
I think we can commit to that. I think we can commit to that.
President's Day.
It's President's Day and school vacation week.
Oh, okay.
February.
I would be open to February 9th. I mean, that's still 4 weeks.
We can aim for that. I think
Well,
we can aim for that.
why don't we aim for February 9th?
2 is not enough.
And
4
if-
was,
if-
yeah.
If we need to push it to the 23rd, we'll follow your lead.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
Okay, I guess we can, so we've discussed upcoming meeting dates. We just have the vote to approve the minutes that were prepared by Laura. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the November 3, 2025 minutes?
Yes.
Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes on November 3rd, 2025.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. The minutes for Monday, December 1st, 2025. Everybody have an opportunity to review them?
Yes.
Have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 1st, 2025.
I'll
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No,
I abstain.
I submitted changes and they weren't done.
Laura? So,
You had submitted changes to Laura. There were substantial changes to the draft. I think the committee needs to discuss whether or not they're included. So do you want to present,
No, I give them to her to present.
but that's not how.
But that's how it went last time.
We have draft minutes that go out to the committee. If there are major considerable changes to the draft, the committee has a vote on an amendment to the draft minutes.
so can I suggest that we, Laura, you send out draft minutes at this point for the December 1st meeting, at which time we would have would that be appropriate time to correct the draft minutes and then adopt them?
If you'd like the suggested amendments be made to the draft, then yes.
We don't know what they are, so I think we need to,
That's why the member who suggested the substantial changes brings it to the committee for a discussion.
They're not substantial changes, they're just pieces that were missing from the minutes that were spoken in the meeting.
well, I don't think it really matters at this point. We just need to review them. So why don't we hold off approving the minutes for December 1st for the time being, and between now and the next meeting, we can share draft minutes online with the changes that we can all review.
Sounds good?
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question for the future. If we do have a question or change with the minutes, are we supposed to bring it to the committee or to send it to Laura? Because
Well, I think it would be nice if you could, like you've done in the past, Laura, do draft minutes and share them with everybody, and then we can work through it.
The way that you see other committees doing minutes, right? There's a draft goes out to the committee ahead of time. If there are changes to the draft, comments that are brought to the committee to consider to add to the draft minutes. That's how we should be proceeding with that.
Okay, sounds good.
And a reminder that minutes are not transcripts. These are,
I'm not asking for a transcript, I was just asking for
I'm
the
just
corrections to be made.
mentioning
No, but you're bringing it up as if you're saying I'm asking for a transcript. I'm not asking for a transcript.
you're asking
I'm
for more
asking-
specific comments. to
Yeah,
be
no,
added.
I'm asking for comments that were completely neglected from the minutes to be in the minutes, and corrections there were things that were also wrong.
Okay, right, so what I'm.
We have the opportunity to,
Right, but
Exactly.
it's also stated in the email to please email them back. So pick one. Either email them back and make the changes, and then send out a new draft, preferably before 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon when they have to be they have to be voted on Monday. It's not enough time, especially for things that happened 60 days ago.
Okay,
So I would also ask that they be sent out at least a week in advance. I don't know why that would be hard.
well, we just.
Send them out on a Monday for review on a Monday versus on a Friday afternoon
Okay.
to be done by Monday.
so in the future, if we could be provided with draft minutes at least a week prior to,
Okay, so they won't be, they just won't be, there may be a gap.
exactly. Okay, I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.